So, my dear students, Crimean War was the most useless war ever fought in the history of the world. Opinion by Robert Moyer. Robert Moyer, according to him, Crimean War was a useless war. It was the most, the ever fought waste war of the history. Now, coming to the fact history, let me tell you the most effective way of learning any subjects in UPSC preparation, I'm telling you, yes, you try to be involved in that. When you learn history or the culture or the Indian polity, constitution, Indian economy, you be the stakeholder. You try to involve in that, try to enjoy that particular process of learning. Okay, this is not just for writing answers in your examination, solving questions. This is for understanding. This is for understanding what is the condition of India, the society, the economy, the polity, the geography, the constitution. Okay, all these things are essential for being a good citizen and for being a good bureaucrat. Am I right? Yeah. So, world history, why is Crimean War the most useless war ever fought in the history? In Lucifer movie also you seen that, yes, the hero delivered the dialogue, war is always between the evil forces versus evil forces. Am I right? Yes. So, here you see, this is, war is always, is not at all productive one. This is not for the like a good of the humankind or mankind. Okay, war is always useless, and he says this is the most useless war ever fought. Now, in this war, we have seen there are two teams, one is Brazil and Argentina. No, this is one side Russia is there. Yes, one side Russia is there versus, yes, Turkey. Turkey is there, Ottoman Empire is there. Yes, you know, Britain is there. Yeah, France is there. Piedmont, Sardinia, Italy is there. All those powers are on the opposite side. And why this war is fought? Yes, the Ottoman Empire is in the state of decline or disintegration, and Russia says that Russia is fighting for protection of or safeguarding, yes, safeguarding the interest of this Slavic population. Okay, Slavic population or these Orthodox Christians in the Balkan Peninsula. Russia says Russia is fighting, that is to safeguard the cultural, religious, economic aspirations of the Orthodox subjects in this Ottoman Empire. According to Russia, the Orthodox Christians are suffering under this Ottoman Sultan rule. Okay, so he says, or Russia says, yes, Russia is fighting this war to safeguard the interest of the Orthodox Christians in the Ottoman Empire. And this war is actually, this is a very silly religious issue. What was the issue? Yes, this Russian Orthodox churches versus Roman Catholic churches. There is a quarrel. This Orthodox priest and this Catholic priest, Roman Catholic priest, you know, they quarreled among themselves. It is over the control of Jerusalem, the Christian holy places in Ottoman Empire. Okay, both these groups, that Orthodox churches and these Catholic churches, Roman Catholic churches, they started fighting over the control of these holy places in Ottoman Empire, or over the Jerusalem church. Who will control the Jerusalem church? Over which you can see that it will become a war between two groups. One side Russia, opposite side of Britain, France, Turkey, Italy, etc. Okay, so Russia stood for the Orthodox churches, and the France, Britain, etc., they are on other side, protecting the interest of Roman Catholic Church. Now you see, this war was a useless war in the history because it fought over silly quarrel over this control over the Jerusalem church. You see, who will control Jerusalem churches? You know, one side says we will control. Okay, Orthodox churches say we will control. It is our right, or it is our privilege to control or have control over the Jerusalem churches. Opposite side, Roman Catholics, they wanted the control of Jerusalem churches. Okay, it became a world war issue or a Crimean war issue, you see. And this war was useless because it fought over silly religious issue, a very trivial religious issue, a small issue which could have been discussed over a table. Okay, it was on a silly religious issue. That is one reason why it is a useless war. Second is, Even after this war, there is no permanent solution to this. There is no permanent solution to Eastern question. Okay, Eastern question, that tension is also shoot up during this particular. It also shot up during this particular Crimean War. But that Eastern question, there is no permanent solution provided to Eastern question even after this Treaty of Paris after the war. Okay, that way also it is useless. So there was no permanent solution to Eastern question. Eastern question we already discussed. Am I right? What was that international question? What was that tension? Now see, this war is also meant to check this Russian expansion in this in the Europe. But unfortunately, what happened is exactly after 14 years, you can see that yes, Russia wiped off all the restrictions imposed upon Russia after this war. After Crimean War, we have seen there is terrible defeat of this Russia, some restrictions imposed upon this Russia. But what Russia done is, just after 10 to 14 years, Russia wiped off all restrictions over Russia, and Russia, started its expansions over Central Asia also. Not just Europe, Russia's focus shifted to Central Asia. Then it became a huge threat for this British or this French aspirations in this Central Asia, West Asia. Now, Sultan, no reforms promised in the treaty. That means after this war, according to Treaty of Paris, Sultan was asked to take care of some reforms in his state so that the people will be happy. Some liberal reforms, democratic reforms or republican reforms he was supposed to take, he was supposed to implement in his state. But there is no such reforms undertaken by this particular Sultan. That way also it was a failure. Then by 1878 itself, Russia wiped off all the restrictions imposed upon her by Treaty of Paris. And you see that the neutrality over the Black Sea is removed. You see that again, you can see that Russia got a control over, or Russia focused on its aggressions. Russia focused on its naval aggressions, expansions. Anyway, that way also this was a useless war, and it also caused huge death. There is huge casualty, huge death, and there are no fruitful results. Because of these reasons, Robert Morier says it was one of the useless war ever fought in the history of the world. But we must have the opposite side also. We must check the counter views also. This, when we say that it was useless war, you see that the state system of the Europe is collapsed. After this war, let me tell you, the state system of the Europe is disturbed. I mean, the idea of nationalism, or the nation state, or the idea of liberalism or liberal government, okay, the idea of a protest against despotic rule or despotic government, such things become so strong in Europe. Eventually, let us say, the result was, you can see there is unification of many states, unification of Italy, unification of Germany, all these things happened. Nationalism, liberalism, democracy, republicanism, such ideas become so popular in Europe, especially after this war. So the state system of the Europe is disturbed after this war. That is a positive angle of this Crimean War. Then liberalism, nationalism, such ideas become so popular. Then this Italy-Germany unification happened. I mean, after this war, again see reforms within. Even this Piedmont Sardinia got an opportunity to talk about her pathetic conditions and restrictions by Austria-Hungary over these Italian states. So Piedmont Sardinia got an opportunity to represent herself in this Paris conference. Okay, so let me tell you that this war it disturbed the state system. It disturbed the Metternich status quo. And also it promoted the idea of liberal government, national state, or nation state. Then it eventually resulted in unification of this Italy, then Germany. Then even Russia also witnessed reforms within her. After her failure, she witnessed reforms within the state, and she was able to get rid of her medieval stagnation. Okay, all this happened after this war. That way, it was not that kind of useless war. When we say it is useless, opposite side we must say how much it was useful also. Okay, or what all the positive aspects of this war, especially the positive consequences of this war, that also we have to check in our answers. Okay, so take care of this aspect. Now the module is emergence of modern Turkey. Okay, emergence of modern Turkey. We have seen the Eastern question, how it was an international question, why these European powers got involved into that, and what all the tensions the Balkan Peninsula had, the people of the Balkan Peninsula had. And we discussed on what all occasions this Eastern question becomes so prominent, especially the Greek Revolution, Crimean War, or these Balkan wars. On various occasions, it becomes so prominent, it becomes so hot topic in Europe. Okay, why different countries got involved into that question, and how this question being arisen on various occasions, and how this segment of Europe eventually become not only Turkey but the Europe itself, and how this Eastern question eventually mounted up to this World War I. All those things we discussed. Now this is emergence of modern Turkey, which is under the prominent leadership of Mustafa Kemal Pasha. Is Kemalism, or this Ataturk reforms you studied or you will study. Just have a look into the questions, how the UPSC asked questions here. Nominally, the new Turkey was Republican and Democratic. So there is a word nominally. Nominally. Yeah, keywords. Nominally, the new Turkey was Republican and Democratic government. So you have to comment on to what extent the new Turkey was a Republican state and it was a democratic state. Okay, to what extent it is not. Now, Turkish Renaissance guided by Kemal Pasha revolutionized Turkish life at many levels amplify. So, what all? The Turkish Renaissance, Turkish Westernism, modernism, which is guided by Kemal Pasha, it revolutionized Turkish life at many levels. That means economically, socially, politically, culturally, religiously, ideologically, scientifically, how it modernized this Turkish life, okay, which you have to discuss. These are some questions UPSC asked. Yes, the modern Turkey, we know that it is democratic republican state. How this new state is formed in West Asia, how the new state, Ottoman Empire, is disintegrated. Okay, it is declined. After that, a new state is formed under leadership of Mustafa Kemal Pasha. How that process done? Yes, emergence of modern Turkey. ഇവിടെ നമ്മൾ ഫോക്കസ് ചെയ്യേണ്ട പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഒരു എലമെന്റ് എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ, യെസ്, ദർ ഈസ് എ മൂവ്മെന്റ് which is called Young Turks by the revolutionaries. In Turkey itself, there is a movement which is known as a movement by Young Turks. Okay, a movement by Young Turks. What is their organization called here? അവർ എന്തെന്ന് വിളിക്കുന്നത്? Organization എന്ത് വിളിക്കുന്നു? Young Turkish Organization or Committee of Union and Progress, which is CUP. Okay, CUP. This is Committee of Union and Progress. Yes, this is an organization which is which is a group of these young revolutionaries, because they were totally fed up with this Sultan's government. Okay, this Ottoman Empire, Turkish Empire had a Sultan, and they are totally fed up with this Sultan's rule. Why they fed up with the Sultan's rule? Because it is despotic rule. You try to understand, it is despotic. It is despotic and nothing done for, I mean, no welfare mechanism for the people, and also the state administration, it was corrupted. It is no for nepotism. Okay, and there is no people's representation. And there is no ample opportunities, no employment. Okay, there is no employment. There is no proper employment, no modern industries, no agricultural revolutions, nothing is there. This is totally, the economy is a stagnant economy. Okay, and people face poverty and no employment. Okay, there is continuous famines, and this government was a despotic government, no people's representation. So they are totally fed up with this government. They are fed up with this government, and government has no people's representation. It is a corrupted government. So they are so unhappy. People are so unhappy with this despotic government of this Ottoman Empire or Turkish Empire. Okay. Then there is Young Turks, or the revolutionaries formed an organization which is CUP, which is Committee of Union and Progress. എന്നിട്ട് അവരെന്താ ചെയ്യുന്നത്? അവർ ചുമ്മാ ബെല്ലി ഡാൻസ് കളിച്ചോ? അവർ ബെല്ലി അറബി കൂത്തിട്ടിട്ട് ബെല്ലി ഡാൻസ് കളിച്ചോ? യു സി ദർ ഈസ് എ സ്ട്രോങ് മൂവ്മെന്റ്. യു സി എ സ്ട്രോങ് മൂവ്മെന്റ്. They wanted this guy to resign. You see, what is his name? Sultan Abdul Hamid II. Okay, young Turkish revolutionaries under this Ahmad Riza, they organized a revolution against this or a movement against this Sultan Abdul Hamid II. They demanded reforms under strong central government. They demanded reforms under strong central government. Current central government is a weaker government and there is foreign influences also, European influences on the central government. So the demand was like this. Revolutionaries demand endu cheyanam, there should be exclusion of all foreign influences and also strong reforms, economic reforms, administrative reforms, social reforms must be undertaken by the central government. These were the demands. Okay, they organized a revolution. 1908, the Young Turk or the CUP, which is Committee of Union and Progress, അവരൊരു റവല്യൂഷൻ നടത്തുന്നു, സ്റ്റേറ്റിനെതിരെ ഒരു റവല്യൂഷൻ നടത്തുന്നു, ഗവൺമെന്റിനെതിരെ റവല്യൂഷൻ നടക്കുന്നു, അവർ ഗവൺമെന്റ് പിടിച്ചെടുക്കുന്നു. ഓക്കെ, ആക്ച്വലി അവരെന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നു? ഗവൺമെന്റ് പിടിച്ചെടുക്കുന്നു. സുൽത്താൻ ഒരു ടിറ്റുലർ ഹെഡായിട്ട് മാറുന്നു. സുൽത്താൻ്റെ പവറൊക്കെ അത് മിനിമൈസ് ചെയ്തു. നോമിനൽ സുൽത്താൻ ഓൺലി, ജസ്റ്റ് ഫോർ പേരിന് വേണ്ടി ഒരു സുൽത്താൻ. ആക്ച്വൽ ഗവൺമെന്റ് യങ് ടർക്ക് അവർ ലൈക്ക് കൺട്രോൾ ചെയ്യാൻ തുടങ്ങുന്നു 1908 ആയപ്പോഴത്തേക്കും. ദെൻ വാട്ട് ഹാപ്പൻഡ്? ഈ യങ് ടർക്ക് ആക്ച്വലി ഇപ്പോൾ ഭരണം യങ് ടർക്കിൻ്റെ കയ്യിലാണ്. സുൽത്താൻ പേരിന് സുൽത്താൻ ഉണ്ട് എങ്കിൽ കൂടി ഭരണം ഇവർ പിടിച്ചടക്കി. ബട്ട് അൺഫോർച്ചുനേറ്റ്ലി ഈ സുൽത്താനും യങ് ടർക്കൊക്കെ അടങ്ങുന്ന ഗവൺമെൻറ് എന്ത് ചെയ്തു? World War I ജർമ്മനീൻ്റെ കൂടെ കൂടി, സെൻട്രൽ പവേഴ്സിൻ്റെ കൂടെ കൂടി. ബിക്കോസ് ദേ വർ ഓഫ് ദ ഫീലിംഗ് ദാറ്റ് ജർമ്മനി വിൽ വിൻ ദ വാർ. Germany will win the war. So young Turksum Sultanൊക്കെ അടങ്ങുന്ന ഒരു വിഭാഗം, they sided with Germany. But unfortunately in the World War I, what happened is Germany was defeated. Germany was in the central powers were in the defeated side. Okay, who become the winners? The Allied powers. Am I right? The Allies or the Allied powers, they become the winners. I mean this Britain, France, Russia, etc. they become the winners. Okay, so you see that yes, the Turkey endu sambhavichu. Yes, the Turkish Empire, Ottoman Empire, Turkish Empire അല്ലെങ്കിൽ Ottoman Empire, yes, which sided with the Germany or Central Powers, they got defeated in World War I. That is why the CUP, the Young Turks, you know, their cabinet resigned and they signed this armistice of Montrose. അതായത് അലീഡ് പവേഴ്സ് തമ്മിലുള്ള ഹോസ്റ്റിലിറ്റീസ്, ശത്രുത അവസാനിപ്പിക്കുന്നു, എന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നു എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു ട്രീറ്റി സൈൻ ചെയ്തു, വിച്ച് ഇസ് നോൺ ആസ് ആർമിസ്റ്റൈസ് ഓഫ് Montrose, signed in October 9, 1918. അപ്പോൾ ഇനി എന്താ സംഭവിക്കുക? യങ് ടർക്സ് അവർക്ക് ആരോട് ആർക്ക് അടിമപ്പെട്ടു? അലീഡ് പവേഴ്സിനോട് അടിമപ്പെട്ടു. അവർ തോറ്റ സൈഡിലല്ലേ. അപ്പോൾ ഇനിയിപ്പോൾ അലീഡ് പവേഴ്സ് പറയുന്നതൊക്കെ കേൾക്കേണ്ടി വരും. ഓക്കെ, ഈ ഒരു അവസ്ഥയിലാണ് നിൽക്കുന്നത്. സോ അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു കോൺടെസ്റ്റിൽ നമുക്ക് കാണാൻ പറ്റും അവിടെ ആര് ഉദയം ചെയ്യുന്നു? ദർ ഈസ് മുസ്തഫ കമൽ പാഷ. ഓക്കെ, തകർന്ന് തരിപ്പണമായി തുന്നം പടി എന്താ പറയുക, ഒരു ടർക്കിഷ് ഗവൺമെൻറ്റിനെ ഉയർത്തിക്കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ വേണ്ടി അവിടെ ഒരു നേതാവിൻ്റെ ഉദയം, വിച്ച് ഇസ് മുസ്തഫ കമൽ പാഷ. ഓക്കെ, സോ വേൾഡ് വാർ I ശേഷം, വേൾഡ് വാർ I ഒട്ടോമൻ എംപയറിൻ്റെ അവസ്ഥ ഭയങ്കര മോശമാണ്. കാരണം എന്താ വെച്ചാൽ ഒട്ടോമൻ എംപയർ തകർന്നിടിഞ്ഞ പക്ഷത്താണ്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ തോറ്റവരുടെ കൂടെയാണ്, ശരിയല്ലേ? അപ്പോൾ ഈ യൂറോപ്യൻ പവേഴ്സ്, ബ്രിട്ടനും ഫ്രാൻസൊക്കെ ഇമ്പോസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന എല്ലാ ഉപരോധങ്ങളും അതിൻ്റെ മേലെ വരും. അവരെന്തെല്ലാം പറയുന്നു ആ റെസ്ട്രിക്ഷൻസ് എല്ലാം വരും. ഓക്കെ, അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു അവസ്ഥയിൽ ഈ ടർക്കിനെ കൈപിടിച്ച് മേലേക്ക് ഉയർത്തിയ ഒരു നേതാവാണ് ആരെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് മുസ്തഫ കമൽ പാഷ. സോ മുസ്തഫ കമൽ പാഷ, ഹി വാസ് സോ ഇൻഫ്ലുവൻസ്ഡ് ബൈ ഫ്രഞ്ച് റവല്യൂഷൻ. നമുക്കറിയാം ഫ്രഞ്ച് റവല്യൂഷൻ്റെ ഐഡിയാസ് എന്തെല്ലാമായിരുന്നു? ലിബർട്ടി, ഇക്വാളിറ്റി, ഫ്രട്ടേണിറ്റി. ഓക്കെ, സോ ദർ ആർ സോ മെനി ലീഡേഴ്സ്. There are so many leaders that were influenced by this French Revolution. They were influenced by French Revolution. So this guy was also, Mustafa Kamal Pasha also, he was influenced by, yes, he was also influenced by the French revolutionary ideas. He was influenced by the French revolutionary ideas. French revolutionary ideas, and also he was the founder of the secret opposition group which is Wadan. Wadan is, it's a revolutionary organization. Wadan means it is fatherland, motherland or fatherland. Okay, why mother should always have the land? I will call it as fatherland. Am I right? Okay, so there is Yes, he founded a secret organization which is called Wadan. So, ചെറുപ്പത്തിലെ നല്ല ചോരത്തിളപ്പുള്ള പയ്യനായിരുന്നു മുസ്തഫ കമൽ പാഷ. ഓക്കെ, ലിബർട്ടി, ഇക്വാളിറ്റി, ഫ്രട്ടേണിറ്റി ഐഡിയാസ് ഒക്കെ ചോരകളിൽ ഞരമ്പുകളിൽ ഓടുന്ന പയ്യനായിരുന്നു മുസ്തഫ കമൽ പാഷ. യെസ്, ഹി ഫോംഡ് ആൻ സീക്രട്ട് ഓപ്പോസിഷൻ ഗ്രൂപ്പ്. ഗവൺമെന്റിനെ ഓപ്പോസ് ചെയ്യാൻ ഒരു മടിയില്ലാത്ത ചെക്കൻ സ്വന്തമായിട്ടൊരു ഗ്രൂപ്പൊക്കെ ഫോം ചെയ്തു, വഡൻ ഗ്രൂപ്പ്, ഫാദർലാൻഡ് ഗ്രൂപ്പ്. ഓക്കെ, ഐ വാണ്ട് മൈ മദർ കൺട്രി, മൈ ഫാദർ കൺട്രി ഫ്രീ ഫ്രം ഓൾ ദ ഫോറിൻ ഇൻഫ്ലുവൻസസ്. ഓക്കെ, then see 1908 he contacted these young Turks, forced to Sultan administrative reform. So ഇദ്ദേഹത്തിന് ആരുമായിട്ട് അസോസിയേഷൻ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു? ഇദ്ദേഹത്തിന് ആരുമായിട്ട് അസോസിയേഷൻ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു? യങ് ടർക്സുമായിട്ട് അസോസിയേഷൻ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു, റെവല്യൂഷണറി വിങ്ങുമായിട്ട് അസോസിയേഷൻ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു, അവരുമായിട്ട് അസോസിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നു. So he was also part of that young Turkish group and wanted that reforms. Okay, I mean he compelled Sultan to undertake reforms, but Sultan is almost an inefficient one. Mustafa was born in, this is something biography of this guy. He was born in this Salonika, 1811, and he got military education in this monastery in Istanbul. He opposed autocratic rule, transformed to Damascus. So, government in opposite government like chocolate koduthu aadarikyo. See, somebody opposed to the government means obviously you will be the shatru of the government. Am I right? You will be the enemy of the government. So he was transferred to Damascus. Then what happened? After some times he was totally disheartened with these reforms, or maybe the working style of these young Turkish revolutionaries. Okay, young Turk എന്ന് പറയുന്ന revolutionary organization, അവരുടെ പ്രോഗ്രാംസിൽ അദ്ദേഹം അത്ര ഹാപ്പി അല്ലായിരുന്നു. So what he done is like, yes, he abandoned politics. Then 1910 he attended the great French military academy. Admiration for socio-political life of the French. Then 1915 he was recalled to Turkey to take part in this Turco-Italian War and the First World War. So this guy, he is one of the ablest and efficient militarist and military strategist. Okay, so he got a good military education, training, everything. Then see 1915 he was invited to Turkey to take part in the Turco-Italian War and the First World War. So this is something escalated his name and fame. You see, the wars he fought, you know, yes, the contributions, his victories, his military victories in the wars he fought, which brought to him both name and fame. Gradually, he was escalated into the status of a statesman or politician or a state leader. Okay, the victories he achieved in the wars, that provided him both name and fame. Now gradually what all the events happening in this Turkish life, you can see, yes, Turkey was declared a republic, rival government, Anatolian city of Ankara in Asia Minor. In West Asia, already Sultan is there. You know, this Turkish Sultan is there. He is a titular head. Okay, that guy is there. After after failure of World War I, you see, he had to accept so many, treaty restrictions. The Britain, France, you know, allied powers imposed so many restrictions upon the Sultan, and he had no other options. He accepted. Actually, he is a weak Sultan. He has no such stamina of a statesman. Okay, he is not a good statesman. Then see, he is already at Constantinople. This Sultan is the head of this Turkish Empire, Ottoman Empire, challenging his authority and his sovereignty. Mustafa Kamal Pasha, what he done is, yes, he formed a rival government, a parallel government he formed in the city of this Ankara in Asia Minor. 1920 itself, you know, he challenged the authority of the Sultan and he formed his own government here. Okay, that government is useless, simply accepted the terms and conditions of this Britain and France. Is useless government. So what this guy done, Mustafa Kamal Pasha, he formed his own rival government. Yes, that is in the Anatolian city of Ankara in Asia Minor. He formed his own republican government and he declared himself, I am the head of the state. I am the state, I am the head of the state, I am the commander-in-chief of the army. Okay, so he declared myself, I am the ruler of the Turkish Empire, or I am forming a state and I am the head of the state, I am the military, commander-in-chief of army. He formed a parallel government. Okay, you see, there is already a government running in Constantinople, which is headed by the Sultan Mahmud VI. Do you think he will be happy with that? He is already the Sultan, and you see that there is another guy who formed a government in this Angara city in Asia Minor. That will make the Sultan happy? No, he is very angry. He asked his people to arrest Mustafa Kamal Pasha, but nobody dared to arrest Mustafa Kamal Pasha. Nobody dared to, protest the sovereignty of Mustafa Kamal Pasha, because he is already a very successful militarist and the commander, military commander. Okay, so nobody dared to touch him. Sultan is basically a titular Sultan. He is actually, even though he is a Sultan by name or by fame, actually he is not having that much powers. You see? So challenging this parallel government at Constantinople, there is a government, already a government, Turkish government headed by Sultan Mahmud VI, but challenging that this Mustafa Kamal Pasha, he formed another government, a republican government in the Anatolian city of Ankara in Asia Minor in 1920. Because Mustafa Kamal Pasha was not happy. He was not happy with the Treaty of Savaris. Treaty of Savaris, you know that this is signed between, this is Treaty of Savaris, it is signed between this Turkish Sultan and this allied powers. Okay, so the Treaty of Savaris, it was actually an insultation. Actually, it was an insultation. Okay, it was an insultation. You know, insultation is the biggest investment Murali, you remember? Okay, so that was this insultation was an investment for Mustafa Kamal Pasha, but it is nothing for Turkish Sultan. So Treaty of Savaris means World War I parajayapetta Turkish, Germany nodopam parajayapetta, Germany കൂട്ട് നിന്ന ആളാണ് Turkish Empire, Ottoman Empire. Parajayappettavarude സൈഡിലാണ് Turkish Empire. മനസ്സിലായില്ലേ? അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ എന്ത് സംഭവിച്ചു? ഈ Treaty of Savaris, Treaty of Savaris imposed so many restrictions and so many humiliating provisions imposed upon this Turkish Empire. Okay, so it lost control over the many of the provinces. Turkish Empire endu chedu adu kiri murichu vibhajichu kalanju. Am I right? So adinte valare core aayittulla kore provinces ayinu nashtapettu. According to Treaty of Savaris, it lost, you see. Yes, this Turkish Empire stripped off the whole of this Thrace and the historic city of Constantinople, and such terms are accepted by Turkish Sultan, rejected by Nationalist Party under Kamal Pasha. Okay, so after this World War I, since this Ottoman Empire or Turkish Empire is in the defeated side, when they signed a Treaty of Savaris with the Allied powers, this Turkish Empire or Ottoman Empire, yes, it got rid of, or it lost many of its provinces, many of its core provinces, including Constantinople, it lost. So that treaty was a total insultation to the pride of this Turkish life. So Mustafa Kamal Pasha treaty angigarichilla. Mustafa Kamal Pasha endu cheyidilla? ആ ട്രീറ്റി അംഗീകരിച്ചില്ല. ബട്ട് ദ സുൽത്താൻ എന്ത് ചെയ്തു? സുൽത്താൻ ആ ട്രീറ്റി അംഗീകരിച്ചു. അയാൾക്ക് വേറെ വഴിയൊന്നുമില്ലായിരുന്നു. ആക്ച്വലി ട്രീറ്റി ഓഫ് സവറീസ് വാസ് എ ഹ്യൂജ് ഇൻസൾട്ടേഷൻ. It was a huge insultation over the pride and prestige of this Turkish Empire. Okay, that was a huge insultation, and that Treaty of Savaris, accordingly, the Turkish Empire got divided among these European powers. Okay, that was a total insultation to this Turkish pride and prestige. But this Treaty of Savaris, it is accepted by അതിലെ terms and conditions ആര് ചെയ്തു? Turkish Sultan accept ചെയ്തു. But എന്ത് ചെയ്തു? Kamal Pasha reject ചെയ്തു. Okay, National Party under Kamal Pasha rejected the terms and conditions and provisions of this Treaty of Savaris, that is rejected by Mustafa Kamal Pasha. Now, yes, his party, National Assembly, his party formed, you see that party declared a government, National Assembly. Ankara declared abolition of old Sultanate. അപ്പോൾ അവരെന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നു? You see that the Sultan Treaty of Savaris accept ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ മുസ്തഫ കമൽ പാഷ റിജക്റ്റ് ചെയ്യുകയും മുസ്തഫ കമൽ പാഷ എന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നു? യെസ്, സുൽത്താന് പാരലായിട്ട് മറ്റൊരു ഗവൺമെൻറ് അദ്ദേഹം ഫോം ചെയ്യുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നു. ഒരു റിപ്പബ്ലിക്കൻ ഗവൺമെൻറ് ഫോം ചെയ്യുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നു. ഓക്കെ, ഹി ഫോംഡ് ഹിസ് ഓൺ ഗവൺമെൻറ്. Now the question is why this Mustafa Kamal Pasha? Why this Mustu or Mustafa Kamal Pasha? This MKP, why it is a fear factor? Why it was a fear factor for Allied powers? Why it was a fear factor for Allied powers? This slide will explain the reasons. You see, the Greek task of protecting allied position in Turkey. See, after the Treaty of Sevres, I told you that Ottoman Empire, the provinces of Ottoman Empire got divided among these European powers. Okay, അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു major share അവർ വിഭജിച്ചെടുത്തു. Okay, now what the Europeans will do? Europeans will be sending their European force to protect their territories in this Ottoman Empire. Am I right? After Treaty of Sevres, this Ottoman Empire got divided among these, partitioned, divided among these European powers. So to protect their position in Turkish empire, they sent their army, Greek army. ഈ ഗ്രീക്ക് ആർമീനെ ആര് ഓടിച്ചു? മുസ്തഫ കമൽ പാഷ നിലത്ത് നിർത്താണ്ട് തിരിച്ചു ഓടിച്ചു. You see, drove away the Italian and French troops from Turkish empire. So what this Mustafa Kamal Pasha, he's a very ablest military strategist. He's a militarist. I mean, നല്ല തികഞ്ഞ ഒരു യോദ്ധാവാണ്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ military commander ആണ്. What he done is like all these Italian French troops being drove away or wiped out of this Turkish territory. Victory over the Greeks and French transformed this military situation in this Turkey or this Ottoman Empire. Number 2, 1922, National Assembly in Ankara declared this all the Sultanate abolished. So what they done? They very successfully, okay, Mustafa Kamal Pasha very successfully wiped out the European forces. The European forces from this Turkish territory. Along with that, what he done is like, yes, he abolished this caliphate, or he abolished this old sultanate. That means there is a popular belief Khalifa is the head of this Islamic fraternity. Okay, everyone must accept his sovereignty. So that thing is abolished by him. This guy is Mustafa Kamal Pasha. He was guided by these modern principles. Okay, modern principles, the liberty, equality, fraternity, democracy, okay, or rationalism, scientificity, all these things, you know, his guiding principles, liberty, equality, fraternity, democracy, republicanism, or this liberalism, or this what is called secularism. Okay, he was guided by these modern principles, and these medieval elements he abolished. Okay, the caliphate he abolished, and these European forces wiped out of these Turkish provinces. Then you see that July 1923 at Lausanne in Switzerland, British, French, Italians, Romans and Greeks, they signed an agreement with the Kamal's government. So you see that Europeans understood that Mustafa Kamal Pasha is an ablest administrator. അപ്പോൾ അയാളുമായിട്ട് കടി കൂടുന്നത് പല്ലിന് ദോഷം ചെയ്യും. Am I right? ബിക്കോസ് അവിടെ വന്ന യൂറോപ്യൻ ഫോഴ്സസിനെ തുരത്തി ഓടിച്ചു, നിർത്താണ്ട് ഓടിച്ചു, ശരിയല്ലേ? ഈ ഓൾഡ് ഖലീഫത്ത് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സോ കോൾഡ് സുൽത്താനേറ്റ് അദ്ദേഹം അബോളിഷ് ചെയ്തു. ഓക്കെ, സോ ദിസ് മുസ്തഫ കമൽ പാഷ കട്ടയ്ക്ക് നിൽക്കുന്ന ഒരു ശത്രുവാണ്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു എതിരാളിയാണ്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അയാൾ പവർഫുൾ ആണെന്ന് മനസ്സിലാക്കിയപ്പോൾ obviously what happened is, yes, they have no other options. European allied powers, they had no other options but to sign a treaty with Mustafa Kamal Pasha. കാരണം പഴയ സുൽത്താനേറ്റിന് യാതൊരു വാലിഡിറ്റി ഇല്ല ഇപ്പം, മനസ്സിലായില്ലേ? So they signed a new treaty which is in July 1923 at Lausanne. Yes, the British, French, Italian, Romanians and these Greeks, they signed a treaty with this Mustafa Kamal Pasha, that is Treaty of Lausanne, a new treaty. Treaty of Sevres is scrapped and a new treaty is signed, Treaty of Lausanne, that is signed between allied powers and opposite side Mustafa Kamal Pasha. Treaty of Lausanne, accordingly what happened is, it recognized the boundaries of modern state Turkey. Okay, ഇന്നത്തെ ടർക്കി മനസ്സിലായില്ലേ? ഇന്നത്തെ മോഡേൺ റിപ്പബ്ലിക്കൻ ടർക്കി അതിൻ്റെ ബൗണ്ടറീസ് ഒക്കെ അക്നോളജ് ചെയ്യുന്ന, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു പുതിയ മറ്റൊന്നെന്താ വെച്ചാൽ എല്ലാം നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ട ടർക്കി ആയിരുന്നു, ശരിയല്ലേ? ഇപ്പോൾ പുതിയ ട്രീറ്റി അനുസരിച്ച്, ട്രീറ്റി ഓഫ് ലുസൈൻ അനുസരിച്ച് എന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നു, ലൈക്ക് പല പ്രൊവിൻസസും അതിൽ നിന്ന് ഒഴിവാക്കിയ പല പ്രൊവിൻസസും കൂട്ടിച്ചേർത്ത് ലൈക്ക് ഒരു മോഡേൺ ടർക്കിൻ്റെ ബൗണ്ടറീസ് സെറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു പുതിയ ട്രീറ്റി സൈൻ ചെയ്യുന്നു, വിച്ച് ഈസ് ട്രീറ്റി ഓഫ് ലുസൈൻ. That is eventually that is the result of Mustafa Kamal Pasha's protest. Am I right? He fought bravely. Finally, the European countries or the allied powers had to accept, and finally they signed the Treaty of Lausanne. Accordingly, yes, the boundary of the modern state of Turkey is recognized, and he became the ruler of the modern Turkey. He became the ruler of this ruler of modern Turkey. And his party Grand National Assembly conducted elections 29 October 1923. Turkish Republican state came into effect and Mustafa Kemal Pasha became the president of the state. Okay, he is the president of the state and he was kind of a national dictator. He was kind of the national, every 4 years there is election, presidential election, but there is only one majority ruling party and there is only one leader of the party. So every 4 years, whenever the election is done, still you can see that there is only one leader, that is Mustafa Kemal Pasha. So he was kind of a national dictator. That is why UPSC asked the question like, why this Turkish republicanism is a nominal republican state? It's nominally, just for the namesake it was republican state. Actually, the national dictator Mustafa Kemal Pasha, every election, yes, he was the candidate, presidential candidate. He was the only candidate and obviously he was elected and he was always the president. Am I right? So you see that when he got elected into the post, yes, he introduced so many reforms, modern reforms, secular reforms introduced by him, and the basic philosophy behind his reforms. He is called Ataturk. Why is called this Ataturk? Ataturk means the father of Turkey. Father of Turkey. He is regarded as Ataturk. His reforms are called Ataturk reforms. His reforms are called Ataturk reforms. Okay. So he introduced reforms in order to modernize Turkey. Yes, he introduced reforms in political, administrative sphere, social, legal, cultural sphere, and economic sphere. He introduced so many reforms. So it is through his reforms, legal reforms are there, social reforms are there, cultural reforms are there, economic reforms are there, political reforms are there. ഈ പറഞ്ഞ reformsലൂടെയാണ് അദ്ദേഹം ഇന്ന് കാണുന്ന ടർക്കിനെ ഫോം ചെയ്തത്. The modern Turkey is formed. So his reforms are important. His reforms are called Ataturk reforms. Ataturk അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ അച്ഛന്റെ ചേട്ടന്റെ മകനല്ല. Ataturk is, yes, the Mustafa Kemal Pasha himself is called Ataturk, the father of Turkey. Okay, he is the father of Turkey. And now you see that there are lots of reforms. There are lots of resemblances, lots of similarities you can see in the reforms of Mustafa Kemal Pasha, Jawaharlal Nehru, and this Lenin. In the reform, for example, mixed economy, industrial revolution, 5-year plans, you see, in many of the reforms you can see the striking similarities, resemblances among the reforms of this Mustafa Kemal Pasha, Jawaharlal Nehru, and this Lenin. Okay. Now coming to Ataturk reforms, what all his reforms, he has the 6 arrows to shoot, and his 6 arrows are, you see, republicanism, then this nationalism, populism, etatism, secularism, and revolutionism. These are the various isms of this Ataturk or this Mustafa Kemal Pasha. Republican government, that you know. Okay, his government is, it is a republican government. It adopted a constitution. It adopted a constitution which guaranteed these people's rights, and also peoples were given that power to vote. Okay, there is people's representation. There is people's representation. There is representative government, parliamentary government concept is introduced. Nationalism. Okay, this so-called religious sovereignty is ended forever. State is separated from religion. Okay, importance given to secularism. Now you see that the nation is the ultimate priority, not the religion, not the religious matters. There is no mixing up of religion and the state. Okay, state is separated from religion. Now see nationalism. Nationalism is the priority. Nation, being the nation, that idea is important. Being the secular nation, that idea is important. Then populism, people's representation, people's sovereignty is accepted. Then there is etatism. Etatism is nothing but statism, because the central government has the control over the state's affairs. Okay, central government has the control over the state's affairs, especially economic affairs. There is mixed economy. There is private-public partnership. Okay, private-public partnership. State, the central government will have control over the state affairs, especially economic affairs, and of course, secularism, then revolutionism, revolutionary ideas. All these are the 6 reforms of these Ataturks. and Ataturk or Mustafa Kemal Pasha has introduced these reforms. That is the way he revolutionized, or that is the way he modernized the state. That is the way he modernized this Turkey. Yes, 6 arrows. 6 arrows, you understood it represent what here? Represent republicanism, nationalism, populism, patriotism, secularism, revolutionism. Now the changes he introduced is like a caliphate is abolished forever. No more caliphate. Okay, there was a popular belief Khalifa was the head of the religion, he was the head of the state, and his religious laws must be implemented, that must be followed by all. Now the religion is separated, the secular state is separated, caliphate is abolished. New constitution is, a democratic constitution is adopted, a liberal constitution is adopted. Social changes introduced like this. Yes, he given that ultimate priority to national public education. Primary education is compulsory, it is free for all, and this nation will fund, the state will fund the public education. So promoted the idea of secular public education, modern education, Western education, scientific education, science education. So the nation will, or the state, central government will finance the public education, and it to promote the female education, okay, female education, mass education, primary education, no polygamy. What is polygamy? Multi-wife system, okay, you see that no polygamy, no parda. Then women were given that right to vote. Then women marriage, you know, minimum age for marriage is fixed, I mean child marriage is abolished. Then this Turkish alphabet must be written in this Latin. Turkish, not in Arabic, that must be in Latin, okay. And this first turbans, this being abolished. All this Islamic dress code is abolished, and new Swiss or Italian legal code is introduced, Western legal code is introduced, Western education is introduced, Western dress code is introduced, women franchise is introduced, minimum age for marriage is fixed, child marriage is abolished, female education is guaranteed, public education is guaranteed. Then this Turkish alphabet must be written in this Latin. Okay, this all the religious dress code is abolished. All such reforms, social reforms undertaken by Mustafa Kemal Pasha. Then Sunday is declared a holiday. The weekly holiday is not Friday, which is Sunday. Okay, this is a good movie, na? This guy, that girl, both performed very well. Sunday holiday. Economic. See, economic reforms in the Lamayarno. Yes, he, rapid industrialization taken place. Infrastructural development, industrial development, and funding investments into this public sector, all those things taken place. New ports, extension of communication networks, irrigation, extension of irrigation, extension of agriculture, and industrial revolution. Yes, and industrial revolution. Okay, industrial revolution, agricultural revolution, industrial revolution, all things taken place, and it is well planned here. It is through 5-year plans. We also in India, we have 5-year plans, am I right? Yes, it is well planned. It is well planned and well executed. So there is agricultural revolution, industrial revolutions, there is expansion of communication network, there is infrastructural development, there is extension of the new ports. So many things he undertook, which is to boost the economy. Now, foreign affairs, he maintained very cordial, very friendly diplomatic relations with this Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, Yugoslavia, and Albania, etc. With all the neighborhood nations, he maintained very cordial, very friendly, healthy relationships. Okay, bilateral ties he maintained, commercial ties, diplomatic ties. Okay, he maintained very warm ties he maintained with this neighborhood, and become the member of League of Nations. 1937 pact with Iran, Iraq, Afghan to bridge a gap between Asia and Europe. This is a very crucial point connecting Asia and Europe. So it played the role of a mediator. A pact signed with Iran, Iraq, and Afghan to bridge the gap between this Asia and Europe. So you see that it become part of many international ties. Okay, it acted as a global mediator to settle the disputes among various global nations. Again, you see that it maintained very friendly, diplomatic, healthy relations with these foreign nations, neighborhood, etc. So such all reforms he undertook. which escalated the status of this what is called this Turkey. Okay. Again you see that this Turkish Renaissance, when we check Turkish Renaissance, it reflected in various aspects. You know, political reforms are there, economic reforms are there, social reforms are there, or let's say the religious or cultural reforms are there. Okay, even these international relations, there are reforms in international relations. All the way he introduced to so many changes. Okay, administrative changes we have seen. Okay, so lots of changes he introduced, and introducing that changes resulting in modernization of Turkey. That resulted in modernization of Turkey. So it is very essential to understand what all his political reforms, his P reforms are there, okay, political reforms, his social reforms are there, E reforms, his economic reforms, then his social reforms are there, his cultural or religious reforms are there, his international relations related reforms are there, okay, or his what is called scientific or maybe his liberal reforms are there. Okay, reforms in relation to women, reforms in relation to his diplomacy. Okay, so what all the reforms undertaken by Mustafa Kemal Pasha, you must discuss under different aspects. Okay. Now see, Mustafa Kemal Pasha, he was the nation builder of 20th century. He built a huge nation. He built a strong nation. From the scratch, he built a strong nation. A democratic republican state he formed. So he was the nation builder of the 20th century, and he formed a republican democratic government and adopted a written constitution. But eventually you try to understand that he was a nominal, Turkey was a nominal democratic country. Reason for that is he was a national dictator. He was a national dictator. It's a kind of national, because every election, it's a democratic constitution, it is a people's government, all things are there. But every 4 years when this presidential election is held, there is only one guy who will be the candidate, and there are no opposing guys. There is only one national party, okay, which is People's Party. And you see that he was more or less kind of a national dictator. Every election, he win the election, his party win the election, and he become the president. And there are no actual, in actual terms, there is no actual democratic element. If democracy is there, republicanism is there, there should be other people also must, other parties, other peoples and other political ideologies also must an opportunity to get elected and to form the government. Am I right? But the thing is, like, he was almost like a more or less kind of a national dictator. Every 4 years presidential election, he is the winner, he forms the government and he rules according to his set of laws. Okay, so that is why it was a nominal republic. So these are things you have to cover under this module. This is probably a small module which you can easily cover up. So just go for it, and your focus must be how this Mustafa Kemal Pasha formed the state, how he formed this what is called the state, this Turkish modern republican state, how he formed, what all reforms he undertook. So this is something very simple. This is what we discussed right now. Maintained good cordial relations with these neighborhood states or neighbor nations, Bulgaria, Greece, Romania, Yugoslavia, Albania, and he re-established these commercial ties, diplomatic ties, strategic ties with these nations. July 23, Turkey was admitted into League of Nations. Okay. Then see, Turkey made a pact with Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, bridge gap between Asia and Europe. Then it maintained friendly relations with the neighbors as both continents, Europe and Asia. Then Ataturk, the father of this Turkish nation, that was Mustafa Kemal Pasha, through his Ataturk reforms, or through Kemalism, or through Mustafa Kemal Pasha's reforms, yes, from the scratches, you see that he formed the modern Turkey. Okay, it was a medieval Turkish empire. or an Orthodox, Turkish Empire, which transformed into modern Republican, democratic, secular, yes, a liberal state under his leadership. So he is regarded as Ataturk or father of Turkey, and his reforms are called Ataturk reforms. Okay, so it is essential to understand how what the way he changed this medieval stagnant Turkish nation into a modern secular republic democratic Turkey. Okay, try to understand how he converted medieval Turkey into modern Turkey. Okay, what all reforms he undertook, what all social reforms, or what all these cultural reforms, what all these political reforms, administrative reforms, economic reforms, okay, what all the intellectual reforms all he undertook, and how he modernized Turkey. Okay, this is the thing you have to do. And here you have a question. Questions to answer. This is your question, you have to answer. Turkish Renaissance guided by Kemal Pasha, because it is essential to practice the previous year's questions, okay, to understand the soul of the UPSC questions and UPSC exam. Yes, Turkish Renaissance guided by Kemal Pasha revolutionized this Turkish life at many levels. Amplify. This is the question I am giving to you, both online and offline students. Turkish Renaissance guided by Kemal Pasha revolutionized Turkish life at many levels. Amplify. So, yes, the scope of the answer is, I am telling you, this is a 10 marker question, 150 words. 150 words means 2 sheets you can write this answer. Both the margins are there, don't write anything in the margin. Okay, see the margin, UPSC answer sheet. Then this is 1 sheet. This is 1 sheet, okay, and one more sheet, you see. Okay, both sheet, both side, both side. It is not a sheet, it is page, am I right? Okay, of both pages of the same sheet. This is the single paper, for example. This is the single paper, this is the single sheet, and you say this is page number 1 and this is page number 2, am I right? So in 150 words, 10 marker question, 150 words, you write on, you write on both this side, this page number 1 and page number 2, okay. Yes, that is the scope for you, 150 words maximum, 2 pages you can write this answer. When you write an answer, take care, your answer should have a very proper introduction, body and conclusion, and try to understand this question and try to address all aspects of that particular answer, okay. Take care of it, that's it, thank you.